everyone who's associated with Open Hand. Back in the day, we used to be called Project Open Hand. And we're celebrating 35 years this year, and it all began right here at St. Bart's. And with this gentleman on the screen that you see, his name is Michael Edwards. He is the founder of Project Open Hand. And he brought so much love and so much passion to wanting to form Project Open Hand because he was outraged that so many people were dying of AIDS. And it was in the time when there were no treatments available, and many of his friends were dying. And back in those days, it was sort of horrific and shocking how quickly someone could be diagnosed and then 3 months later, they passed away. Sometimes, and many times, often feeling ostracized and isolated and feeling like their community had turned their backs, right? And Michael said, we can do better. There may not be treatments out there, but at least we can show people that their community cares about them. And through his generosity and through his love, he began cooking meals. And they were very humble meals back in the day, soup and sandwiches. And he started telling his friends, we need to go start cooking meals together and we need to start delivering meals. He actually did that from his home kitchen, but quickly realized that that wasn't going to work. I'm understanding that he put out an RFP and asking community organizations to step up, and St. Bart stepped up and said, bring your mission, bring your love. We've got a kitchen. We'd love to partner with you. That's just so special and dear. And so from this hallowed ground, those volunteers, which started out as 15, and word started getting out, and it increased to 50, and then soon it was 500, right? And then soon it was 2,000. And today, we have about 17,000 volunteers in our database, and on any given day on our campus, which is in Midtown, you can see 60 to 80 volunteers who are giving their time and their talent and their love to continuing our mission. These are some of the early day pictures, right, from our archives. That love of volunteers and the respect that we have for volunteers continues today. This was a fun fact that I love to share with people. For the very first 2 years that Project Open Hand existed, there were no paid staff members. It was all volunteerism. Can you imagine? People would leave their jobs, they'd come and start cooking, they would come start delivering. Funny story that I'll share. I was a volunteer at 8 Atlanta, and one of the head volunteers who was very involved here at Project Open Hand, her name was Jean Levine, and she just dedicated her life to helping people who were dying of AIDS. And she was a general, right? She was only about 4'2", but she was a general. And she said, hey, you, grab this box, take a ride. I'm looking around like, does anybody know this lady? Right? And they said, go with her, right? And so I got in her car. She was a bit of a chain smoker, and she had cussed like a sailor. And she said, we're here, carry that box inside to this chair, St. Bart's. I've got a meeting. Go make yourself useful in the kitchen, right? Little did she know I can't cook, I can't, and that's true today. But they gave me a task to start cutting up some chicken. Well, 5 minutes later, after they realized I was murdering this chicken, they came over. This gentleman put his hands on my shoulder and he said, no, you're going to need to try your hand at delivery. And I swear it's still that way today. Right? They don't let me in our kitchen at Open Hand. But that's and Jean Levine, I came to learn that how beloved she was, even though she cussed like a sailor, right? And she and Michael Edwards, our founder, were like brother and sister. And like brothers and sisters, they fought. And apparently they had some legendary arguments, where they would throw things at each other. They shared a desk, and Gene took a roll of masking tape and divided the desk and said, Michael, that's your side of the desk, and this is my side of the desk, and the two should never cross. They loved each other. Michael is still very much alive and is retired in Nashville, and some of his retirement is spent volunteering at a food bank, so food access is still very important to him. Jean, God bless her soul, she passed away about 5 years ago. So, Jean, if you're up there, we're honoring you today by being on this hallowed ground. I've talked about the importance of volunteerism. It's such a, I say this all the time, everything that we've achieved and succeeded at Open Hand, and today we package and deliver 5,000 meals a day, not only to people who are living with HIV and who need our level of nutrition, but to many other adults who are facing all kinds of chronic disease, including cancer, renal failure, diabetes, heart disease, just to name a few, right? And oftentimes our clients have multiple chronic health conditions, right? And all the experience that we learned in providing nutrition for people with HIV, because HIV is a very complex disease and truly needs special nutrition, all of that learning went into helping other adults. And when we expanded our mission, I think probably about 23 years ago, 25 years ago, to not only helping people with HIV, but the slogan was, we're making more room at the table. And we didn't do this in a silo. We were actually asked by the Atlanta Regional Commission, hey, we like your model. By this time, you've got thousands of volunteers, we had refrigerated vehicles, we had purchased and bought a building, which is in Midtown, renovated it, and we were a very established organization, still very much volunteer driven, but by this time we had probably about 50 or 60 staff, maybe 50 staff members, many of them dedicated to food service. Where was I going with this? The point is that volunteerism is a huge part of what we do. And that, but now it's not just about focusing on people with HIV, it's about focusing on adults of all ages, and increasingly we're doing more for the youth these days too. So for a long time we've been feeding the dependent children or grandchildren of people with HIV or other adults, because what we were finding was that when we would deliver a meal, the client was providing their meal to the child, which, as a parent or a grandparent, I would do the same thing, right? And so we started raising money to say we got to feed not just the client, but we got to feed the children who are in the home too. We still do that today, and there's other ways that we serve youth as well. But the core of our mission is to really help empower people who are facing chronic disease or seriously at risk for it, to become empowered to take charge of their own health. If we can't help them overcome their chronic health condition, at least we can help them better manage it, right? And we can do that through nutrition, and we can do that through nutrition counseling. So Stacy is a part of our fundraising team, and she let me know we would be remiss if we weren't in this room and telling people how they could support us, right?
Absolutely.
And it's just what we do.
Absolutely.
So bear with me here.
Absolutely.
As if you haven't done enough already, right? But we love to have people come volunteer. We love to have people of all ages come volunteer. We love it when individuals or families or corporate groups or faith groups come in either on their own or as a group. And as I mentioned, any day on our campus, you might see 50 to 70 volunteers, either helping to pack up the meals or deliver them, or if they've got culinary skills, unlike me, then they can help in some of the food production as well, right? And we love every one of our volunteers, right? So volunteerism, one way you can help. We've grown to a point where our business model, we contract with entities all throughout Metro Atlanta. We are the largest provider of home-delivered meals and nutrition counseling in the Southeast and one of the largest in the country, right? And how did we do that? Not only on philanthropy, we do this on earned revenue. We contract with Fulton County, Clayton County, Cobb County, Fayette County, Oglethorpe County, which is outside of Athens, Clark Community Council. So we are the largest home meal provider for seniors. We do that through contracts that we earn through those primarily government agencies or 501c3 community-based agencies. Those contracts don't cover the level of nutrition that we provide, right? So businessmen and women who sometimes are new to our organization and are entertaining coming on our board and showing up to our business model, and they're going, why the hell are you taking all of these contracts that aren't paying for your service? And I share with them, that's our commitment to the community. Because if we weren't stepping up to provide the level of nutrition that people need, the alternatives aren't helping those clients. It's only about compassion. It's not about really trying to empower those individuals to overcome their health conditions. So our commitment to the community is we're not going to feed you grade C beef or grade C chicken. We're not going to feed you a lot of food with a lot of preservatives. We really source as much as possible food that doesn't have preservatives. We use very few canned goods in the preparation of our meals. Most of our meals, just as in the old days, the good old days here at St. Bart's, are made from scratch, right? Well, that costs more.
Wow.
Right? It costs more to do that. So we raise dollars philanthropically. That was a long-winded way for me to get in. Another way you can help is if you have the means to contribute financially to what we're trying to do to advance our mission. You certainly won't hear any arguments from me. Volunteerism, financial support, advocacy, help us get the word out. If you've got friends, family members, other parishioners here who are looking for volunteer opportunities, steer them our way. We love that. Continue to be advocates, if you would, for our mission. And that is our mission now. We did a whole rebranding over the last couple of years, actually. We changed our mission because we realized our mission was way too long and nobody could remember it. And it had words like comprehensive nutrition care in it that doesn't exactly roll off your tongue. And while it's all profound, we said we gotta simplify it. Like everybody needs to be able to remember and say what our mission is and like that, right? And so at the very core, it's we cook, we deliver, we teach, and that's the nutrition education part that we do. And that's a huge differentiator. We employ about 10 registered dietitians. 8 of them go out into the community to teach people the connection between healthy eating and good health outcomes, right? And they are a support system for our clients. For any of you who may have battled or are battling cancer, you get that it's really intimidating to hear a cancer diagnosis and to be told that you're going to need to change your diet, right, for ultimate outcomes, health outcomes. Well, our registered dietitians and those who are community educators are helping to support those individuals in their journey and to help them understand why it's necessary to change their eating habits, right, and their sources of food, and which foods will best help them to adopt to either chemotherapy or radiation or other means of treatment, right? So the nutrition counseling is empowering. And while many people feel intimidated and many who don't have nutrition counseling fail in terms of being able to change their eating habits, but our registered dietitians are there and saying, we're not going to let you fail. We're going to be with you through your journey, and we're going to teach you, and we're going to set realistic health goals, right? Like if your doctor says you got to lose 60 pounds, well, let's start with 10, right? And when we lose 10, let's celebrate that, right? And then we'll establish the next goal. And sometimes a goal is as simple as my granddaughter is getting married in 6 months, and I want to attend the wedding. and I want to be healthy enough to attend the wedding. Well, that's a great goal to mark down and to check in on that client to say, how you doing, Mrs. Jones, on your journey here. That's our registered dietitians. They're such a blessing because they're so passionate about the ways to prepare food in a very healthy way. And we do everything from cooking classes. So we have a program called Cooking Matters. It was our first statewide footprint. We are the statewide administrator for this program, which is a cooking class for 6 weeks, once a week. Not only do we hand out recipes, healthy recipes, we teach people how to read a nutrition label. If it says it's low sodium, or if it says it's low fat, how do you know, right? Because oftentimes it's not. Shocker, right? And it's important that people learn how to read a nutrition label. We teach people, we take them on virtual tours of grocery stores and say, here's the aisles you ought to be shopping down, and here's the aisles that you ought not let your kids down, right? You don't want those sugar cereals that are looking at them right in the face, right? So virtual grocery store tours, right? We practice cooking, of course, in class. We teach people how to create a food budget and how to manage a food budget. Much of the curriculum is really designed for people from low socioeconomic communities, but honestly, anybody can learn from these classes. I take copious notes every time I go. Right? So it's a real pride point for us. And oftentimes when you say we offer nutrition counseling, people are going, I wonder what that looks like. Well, that's one of the ways that we offer nutrition counseling. Other ways are we will do nutrition consults via the phone, via the internet, on a platform that we launched during COVID because we couldn't be in person with our clients and it wasn't safe for them and it wasn't safe for us. So we said, well, we can provide nutrition counseling by means of the internet, right? So we launched telenutrition, it's called Healthy. And now we do nutrition counseling pretty much anywhere in the state of Georgia. And it's a way to support our desire to not only be a Metro Atlanta agency, but a statewide agency. Right? What else am I doing? That's it? Yeah. So let me continue preaching here if I could. and then I'm going to shut up and answer any of your questions you have. There is a lot that's very exciting at Open Hand right now. It is a tough business model. Because as I said, those contracts that we have, which we are very valuable, do not cover the full cost of what we do. And so we're over-reliant, in my opinion, on philanthropy, and we're working on that. But there is another way that we cover the expenses, right? We launched, this was before my time, I've been with Open Hand for about 15 years, and we launched 20 years ago, before my time, Good Measure Meals. So we said we've got all this infrastructure by this time. We had these refrigerated vehicles, we had a fairly good sized kitchen, we had lots of volunteers, we were up to about 80 or 90 staff members, well, it was probably about 70 staff members back then. Why don't we do what not-for-profits are encouraged to do, which is to find ways to use your infrastructure to generate revenue for your mission. Well, we knew how to cook, and not just cook any meals, delicious meals, right? But that are healthy. And there weren't a lot of e-commerce meal plans in the market at that time. In fact, we were the only one pretty much in play at that time. And we said, let's start selling our meals, the same meals that we provide to our Open Hand clients, to the paying public. People like Matt Pieper, who can't cook, and who wants to stay healthy though, and who's trying to stay trim, and who's too busy sometimes to go grocery shop, and much less get my laundry done. But so I'm a very Good Measure Meal customer. I can order it online. Today, we didn't always have this option, but through the investment of technology, we now are able to offer people the opportunity to customize their meals. If you don't like this meal, we've got 4 other choices for you that fit within your nutritional targets. Wow. As many of our customers on the Good Measure Meal side are also at risk or dealing with chronic health conditions, or others are just trying to eat healthy and live a healthier life. So the net proceeds from the sale of those meals helps to fuel our engine, right? Now, I will say that it's not as profitable as it used to be because there's so much competition out there in the marketplace right now. Everybody and their brother decided to get in the e-commerce meal market, even Oprah Winfrey. Come on, Oprah, why'd you do that to us? But it's still a really important part of our business model and does help us to meet our financial needs. But there's a new payer coming into the marketplace, and these are Medicaid and Medicare Advantage plans that are beginning to cover the cost of home-delivered meals, right, for certain health conditions and for certain communities. This has been very slow to come here to Georgia. From my humble opinion, Georgia, oftentimes where public health is concerned, is in the race to the bottom with Alabama and Mississippi, right? So, we work in a coalition called the Food is Medicine Coalition, and I'm proud to be one of the founding members of that, a charter member. These are organizations that look very much like Open Hand. They're independent from us, but we come together because our history and our values and our commitment to medically tailored meals and nutrition counseling align beautifully. Most of these agencies in the Food is Medicine Coalition were founded around the same time that Open Hand was, all exclusively serving people who were dying of AIDS. And so our history is a profound one and gives us that common bond, but also our commitment today to serving adults of all ages who are challenged and at risk for chronic health conditions. And so we take our knowledge and we take our power, frankly, and we advocate up on the Hill in Washington to help legislators and policy leaders, whether it's at the Capitol or whether it's at the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services, to please invest or protect those federal dollars that Open Hand has benefited from almost since our founding. Our Ryan White dollars, as an example, that are given to us to help people with HIV. That's really critical to our business model and to our ability to continue to serve people with HIV. So every time we're up on the Hill or I'm at the Capitol downtown, I'm doing the math proposition for legislators. If we'll continue to invest in programs like Open Hand, we can actually save dollars on this side of the spreadsheet. Yes, we're going to ask you to spend a little bit more on this side of the spreadsheet, but if we can keep people out of hospitals, if we can keep people out of emergency rooms, if we can keep people living in their homes where they most often want to live, and if we can be that safety net for them, because when our volunteers deliver that meal, oftentimes we can be the eyes and ears to say, hey, case management agency that we partnered with, someone needs to check in on Mrs. Jones, because I think she's really concerned about her. She seems like she's struggling more than usual today. And oftentimes we are that safety net. That's another way that we're using that entry into the home as a means to help our clients, right? So we love being part of the Food is Medicine Coalition. We love our advocacy work. And it's a big part of that teach that's in our mission statement there. And then, of course, the last words in our mission statement are we care, right? So Open Hand, Project Open Hand, which eventually got turned into the name just Open Hand, because when we expanded our mission, projects to us, apparently to my predecessor, great man, Stephen Woods, he felt that project indicated a start and an end. And from his perspective, and from many perspectives, and I agree with this, we want Open Hand to be around forever because there's always going to be a need for healthy nutrition and for nutrition counseling, right? I hope AIDS is cured one day, but I also hope that Open Hand will continue to live on and on and on and on long after I'm gone, right? So that's why we changed our name from Project Open Hand to Open Hand, right? But what is not different about Open Hand today is that our mission started with love, right? And that is that we care. We say this oftentimes on our campus. Food is medicine, yes, absolutely. But food is also love. And that's biblical. I mean, from the biblical times, if someone's ill, what are you doing? You're bringing them a meal, right? Like I remember my mom cooking casseroles and saying, Harry, on our way to church, we're going to need to stop by whoever, Mrs. McGillicuddy's house, because they've had a death in their family or someone's not feeling well and we need to drop them off some food. Right? It's that simplistic. That's the food is love part of our mission. And while, yes, we're headed towards statewide growth, and yes, we're hoping to be the preferred provider of medically tailored meals for managed care and health plans, as that slowly gets introduced into Georgia's Medicaid system, which we've still got an uphill battle on that, but it's going to happen. That's awesome for us from a mission perspective to be able to help clients who are benefiting from Medicaid. Medicaid oftentimes, most often, is helping people who are economically challenged and oftentimes dealing with chronic illness or who have disabilities regardless of their age, right? And in the state of Georgia, there's the Georgia Peach program, which is essentially a Medicaid program, but it's specifically designed for women and children. So from a mission perspective, it feels wonderful to have this new avenue to be able to reach more people, and not just here in Metro Atlanta, but people throughout the state. If it's an organization, which is a wonderful organization, CareSource, which is a managed care organization, or even if it's an organization as big as United Healthcare, if they're going to provide our services, they don't want to provide one level of service to their members in Valdosta and a different one for their members in Atlanta. They want standardization. And that's one of the reasons that statewide growth, if we truly are going to be the preferred provider of medically tailored meals for health plans and managed care organizations, and we're well positioned to do that, then we need to really be serious about statewide growth. Cooking Matters was our first footprint. After that, we began getting grants, and we earned the opportunity to be a beneficiary of SNAP dollars. SNAPs are what's known as food stamps. Well, SNAP has another arm that's called SNAP Education. And we receive almost $1 million a year to provide nutrition counseling to recipients throughout Georgia. And we've also received dollars to implement boxes of fruits and vegetables to many individuals who are receiving care at safety net clinics in the very rural areas of Georgia. So it's hard to access healthy resources in rural parts of Georgia, including food. And here, if we can implement and incorporate boxes of fruits and vegetables, and also teach people how to prepare those fruits and vegetables in a healthy manner. Like, I wouldn't know how to cook an eggplant. That's pretty important, right? I've seen an eggplant, I know what it looks like, but, how do you prepare that in a healthy manner, right? Not the Crisco oil that you would fry it in, but other means. And we've seen through the data that we've collected, and by the way, when I say safety net clinics, these are clinics that offer their healthcare services free of charge for people who don't have insurance, right? And there's many of them in the state, and they're heroes. There's many of them that we partner with here in town. Good Samaritan is an example. Mercy Care is another example. So we partner with these agencies, and we've seen many of our clients have diabetes that's not in control, right? And diabetes can be a really mean disease if it's not checked. You can have organ failure, you can go blind. It's a mean chronic health condition, and make no mistake, it's an epidemic proportion still in our country, right? And we are on a diabetes belt here in Georgia, sadly so. We can get someone into a controlled state of diabetes within 3 months if they'll stick with our program and our nutrition counseling, right? And we have many testimonies from clients who were able to eventually do away with their diabetes medication. We have known individuals who, after being on our program for a while, for 6 months or more, who were able to regain eyesight. And that's through the power of medically tailored meals, nutrition counseling, incorporating more fruits and vegetables, teaching people how to cook in a healthy manner. We've only scratched the surface there, but I hope that the Open Hand in the future will do more of what we call produce prescription, providing people with fruits and vegetables and then teaching them how to prepare it in a healthy manner, as well as other cooking tips as well. Obviously, these are for individuals who have the means to prepare meals for themselves, are healthy enough, but don't have the education or the resources to access healthy food. Right? I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I haven't covered. Oh, one other exciting piece of news. With all this success that we're having with our mission, and it started here at St. Bart's, it started here. We need more space. It's hard for me to believe, and it was hard for my board of directors to believe when I said to them 6 years ago, we're eventually going to have to move, you know. And so we set out on a journey to really figure out what do we need for the next horizon of Open Hand. How much more space are we going to need? And what don't we have on our current campus, which is in Midtown, next to, many people know where Sweetwater Brewery is. Isn't that funny where they know where the brewery is, but they don't know where the brewery is? That should tell you something. If only I could sell beer with my meals. Can't cross that bridge yet. So we don't have a teaching kitchen where we're at. While we love going out in the community, it's hard sometimes to find space to do the intensive cooking that we do, teaching that we do. So I promised my registered dietitians that in a new space, we would build a state-of-the-art teaching kitchen. We only have one delivery bay where we're at now. And so the trucks line up in the morning and they get mad because they're going to be late for their next delivery, right? Because we're taking too long to, do the intake. So I took our guys who work in shipping and receiving over to our new campus and counted that there are 8 delivery bays at our new campus.
Wow.
I only feel like I finally got respect from them when they saw that. Like old man Pieper, he's catching on eventually, right? That's so true. A lot more space, but we're at 29,000 square feet now. Our new space is 43,000 square feet, so it gives us the opportunity to grow into it.
Where is it?
It is on the Upper West Midtown area. So we formed a search committee. We wanted to know where our donors are, where our volunteers are, where our staff live. We knew we would have to be inside 285. Land and buildings and real estate, even in a depressed economy, are, Atlanta's growth pattern, everybody's coming to Atlanta. So real estate prices are high. We considered building from the ground up. That would have taken 3 years longer. It's really expensive. We looked at old dilapidated warehouse buildings and said, could we renovate these? And then we found this building from a longtime supporter and donor. His name is Tony Conway, and he's the CEO of Legendary Events. And he does high-end events for people all throughout the country, weddings and corporate events, but also not-for-profit events. So we've known him for a long time. He's overbuilt, no longer needed his headquarters, which had a production kitchen in it already, right? So we walked in and all of a sudden the light bulbs just went off like, it was almost like, okay, thank you, guys. We bought the building from him, and that's a story of its own. Go try and tell the bank that you need for them to give you a loan. Have you raised any money for it yet? No, but we're good for it. But we got that part done. That was the first hurdle, right? The second was, well, now we need to go raise the money to do that, right? And Tony fortunately allowed us to purchase the building from him, but then he agreed to lease it back from us for 18 months and pay all of his operating expenses plus cover our mortgage note. Come on, when's the last time that happened?
Wow.
I love that man. So that did give us time to launch a capital campaign. To give you some perspective, the most money that Open Hand has ever raised in a campaign was $4.2 million to renovate the current campus that we have. The price tag on this particular campus relocation is $19.5 million, right? I'm proud to say that we've raised about $17.1 million.
Wow.
So construction has already begun. We've raised enough to, to pay the construction company. We might be 1 or 2 weeks later every once in a while, but and now we're on that's sort of that final path to raise those dollars with a good number of prospects. So if all goes well, we should be moving into our new campus, which again is on the Upper West Midtown side, which is sort of a boom area right now. It overlooks the new West Side Park, which is a gorgeous park. Piedmont Park is 180 acres. This particular park is 320 acres.
Wow.
So you get how that scale. It's got recreation fields and bike paths and picnic pavilions and lakes, and it's changing how that community. It's providing economic stimulus to that community. And by the way, so will Open Hand, because we're going to employ a lot of people from that community. And as part of this new venture, we're going to formally launch a workforce development program for people who are underemployed. We can teach people food service skills. And you don't have to have a college education to learn food service skills. And we can provide people with a path to economic recovery. And so in our new space, we'll actually have space where we can do formal training. And from a business model perspective, this also creates a pipeline of food service employees for Open Hand. Right? And they're critical to our business operations. Think about the labor shortage and quadruple that in the food service world. There's just fewer people who are interested in the food service world these days. So this will be one way to help offset that challenge. And with that, I will be quiet. And if you have any questions or thoughts you'd like to share, I'd love to hear. Yes, sir.
Max, you said that these contracts don't cover the full cost of meals. What percentage does it cover?
About 80%. Yeah. Each contract is a very competitive situation, right? So it's not only me who's going after those contracts, it's for-profit companies who use processed food and fillers in their food and who, rightly so, are trying to return an investment to their investors, right? That's not a bad thing, but it means they're willing to cut corners on the quality. We're mission-minded, and I tell that to Fulton County and all of our other county partners, right? But because it's a competitive situation, the rates that we charge each county might be different. I hope YouTube is not hearing this, but and so it's proprietary information, and some of those contracts cover a bigger percentage, and some cover significantly less, right? But yeah. Good question. Yes, ma'am.
I got two. Well, I just have two things. One's a thought and one's they're both questions. There was a thing called Just Bakery, and who did what you're doing, and people might not know that if you work in the kitchen of any place that's going to provide food, you have to be certified. And what you're doing is certifying people to work in the kitchen. And sometimes you see that at restaurants, and there are displays of their certificates are up there. But the other thing is that I live in a senior facility that's has a HUD base, and there's many poor people there and disabled people there. So your presentation scaled down would be wonderful there for the administration, but also the social workers that work there. So I don't know how.
I'm going to give you my card and an introduction, and I'll send one of our community health educators. They're not as long-winded as I am. So,
okay. Because the dietary and learn. I guess the cooking things and all that are outside. I mean, they would have to be transported wherever you go. But they've tried. They tried Piccadilly that closed down and where they were getting food because it didn't pass health codes. And then they tried a catering service where the guy wasn't making enough money, so this is a perfect thing for them.
Well, and it could be that many of those residents and clients could benefit from a Medicaid waiver, or could benefit from funds from the Older Americans Act, and we have a team that helps people to understand what that criteria is or where they can find out information.
Okay.
So that's why we love to, and also oftentimes we can go get a grant, not always, but where even if someone doesn't qualify for one of our funding streams, we can at least provide them with meals until other resources can be found.
Okay.
So I'd love a connection there. And the certification that you were talking about, which is so important, is called Safe Serve. And so all of our staff in food service have to be trained in Safe Serve, and that's exactly one of the things we would be offering in our workforce development program. So I appreciate you highlighting that.
I had a couple of comments. One thing that Open Hand, my mother and I delivered meals with Open Hand for 25 years.
I love it.
And it allows it provides volunteer opportunities in a way that a lot of organizations don't with the delivery, because when the kids, like nieces and nephews were little, they'd come with us. So they see us volunteering, and it builds that spirit of volunteerism. And then when my mother developed dementia, she and I could still go out. We worked with Open Hand. The delivery thing changed at one point, which kind of made it impossible. But for a while there, we were able to go out together because we always had the same route. We knew we were going to go to a high rise where we could go in together, deliver all the meals. It was level, etc. So she was able to come with me and do that with me, which fed her spirit.
Right.
So that was,
I love that.
yeah, that was
that.
one piece, from both ends of the spectrum. And the other thing I was going to say is, through that lengthy association with Open Hand, I've always been really impressed with how Open Hand has been very deliberate and very creative in expanding the mission. I mean, I think everything has been done carefully and thoughtfully. And for example, when the expansion into sort of larger Beyond AIDS community happened, there was a sort of dabbling initially with people who were temporarily incapacitated, and an older person who had had a fall, and their doctor recommended them for 6 weeks of meals. So there was some testing of the waters along the way, and the Atlanta Collaborative Kitchen to help people develop skills. So it's always been very impressive how Open Hand has managed to expand and do it very carefully and thoughtfully so that the mission continues and grows.
I love that you recognize and put that out in the universe, because it is something I'm very proud of, and my predecessor Stephen Woods was very proud. We oftentimes have stepped up when there was oftentimes considerable risk. Even when we expanded beyond HIV, not everybody was in love with that idea to begin with, right? Some people thought, so now you've taken all these volunteers who are dedicated to helping people with HIV, and so that took a hurdle. But then we were asked to consider social enterprise, and that was a hurdle too, right? You're going to start selling your meals to the paying public? Like, I thought you helped people who don't have the means to pay. And we had to help people understand that business model, right? More recently, during the pandemic, Dr. Kathleen Toomey called me up, and she reports to the governor, and said, this was before vaccines, all of these senior centers are shutting down across the state because it's no longer safe for them to travel to, for those individuals to travel to the senior centers where they would normally enjoy their meals. And we need help. What can Open Hand do? Well, we weren't a statewide organization. We had aspirations to be. And we hadn't yet launched a shipping program, but we had aspirations to do that. Well, we figured it out very quickly. I said, of course we'll step up. That's just what part of our cornerstone is we take on community challenges. And sure enough, we were shipping meals to seniors, calling them before we got there so they didn't even have to open their door. We put their box right in front of their door, step 10 feet away with masks, right? And if they are not able to get the boxes into their apartment, they could either have one of the staff members there, so we weren't relying on volunteers to do that, right? And that's how we got through. And at one point, we were delivering meals to about 70 counties, not the 19 counties that we normally do. And this was at a time when we had to suspend having volunteers come into the building to package up meals, right? And that hurt on many levels. But we saw our labor costs go way up, but it was not safe for the volunteers and it was not safe for the our staff. So for a while we had to suspend volunteers coming into the building, although they still continued to show up to deliver meals. But our labor cost went up significantly, and that hurt. And the other thing I'll say about volunteers and our sort of brave taking on risk and taking on new initiatives in an entrepreneurial way is that one of the favorite things I love about our mission is that how we invite the community in to come be part of our service delivery, right? It's part of our culture, it's part of our commitment, it's part of our business model, frankly, right? But I love that aspect of our, we truly are a community-based kitchen. We're not some manufacturing plant in rural Georgia that is paying people nothing and only paying staff. We're